The cage had been built for criminals. Thick iron bars, rusted at the joints, rattling with every bump in the road. And Vera sat inside it like cargo being delivered to slaughter. Which, she supposed, she was. Around her, the other prisoners had long since stopped crying. 3 healers, all of them older, all of them more experienced. None of them had spoken in hours. They knew what waited at the end of this road just as well as she did. The Alpha King's dragon. Whispers had reached even the poorest villages. The beast called Sindrath had fallen ill with something no healer could cure. A darkness spreading through its scales. A rot that made it scream in agony through the night, shaking the castle walls. The king had summoned healers from every corner of Valdrich, promising gold and titles to whoever could save his bonded creature. None had succeeded. Most hadn't survived the attempt. The dragon killed them, people said, burned them alive before they could even touch it. And now the king was desperate enough to empty the prisons, to drag out anyone with even a whisper of healing ability and throw them at the problem. Vera pressed her forehead against the cold bars, watching the castle grow larger on the horizon. Gray stone spires clawed at a sky heavy with storm clouds. Even from this distance she could feel it, the dragon's pain. It rolled through her like nausea, like grief, like a wound she couldn't see but couldn't ignore. Her gift had always worked this way. She didn't just heal injuries. She felt them, absorbed them, carried them in her own body until the patient was whole. No one knew this about her. No one could know. Because healers who took pain into themselves were considered cursed, tainted, dangerous. The kingdom had burned such healers at the stake a century ago, calling their magic a corruption that spread like disease. If anyone discovered what she truly was, death by dragon would be the merciful option. The cart lurched to a stop. Guards shouted. The other prisoners whimpered as the cage door swung open. Out! All of you. Vera stepped into the courtyard and immediately felt her knees weaken. The dragon's agony hit her like a physical blow, so intense she nearly vomited. Somewhere deep beneath this castle, Sindrath was screaming without sound, and she was the only one who could hear it. Line up, a soldier barked. You'll be taken to the beast one at a time. Succeed, and you earn your freedom plus a reward beyond imagination. Fail. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The first healer, a gray-haired woman with trembling hands, was led away. Vera counted the minutes in her heartbeat. 7 minutes later, a roar shook the ground beneath her feet. The soldiers exchanged glances. One of them made a mark on a parchment. The gray-haired woman did not return. The second healer went. Then the third. Neither came back. And then, there was only Vera. The soldier looked at her with something like pity. You're young, he said quietly. Probably never even healed anything larger than a barn cat. This is a waste. Vera said nothing. What could she say? That she'd healed her dying mother by taking the lung sickness into her own chest, coughing blood for 3 weeks while her mother recovered? That she'd saved a child from poison by letting it burn through her own veins, nearly stopping her heart? That she understood suffering in ways no ordinary healer ever could? None of it would matter if Sindrath killed her before she could even try. Move, the soldier said, shoving her toward the stone stairs that descended into darkness. The king is watching. The cavern beneath the castle reeked of sulfur and rot. Vera descended the stairs slowly, her bare feet silent on cold stone. Torches lined the walls but did little to push back the shadows. And somewhere ahead, breathing in ragged, pained gasps, waited the creature that had killed every healer before her. The pain intensified with each step. By the time she reached the bottom, tears were streaming down her face, and she hadn't even seen the dragon yet. Then the cavern opened up, and she stopped breathing entirely. Sindrath was enormous. Even curled in on itself, the dragon filled the underground chamber. its scales, once gleaming obsidian, now mottled with patches of gray decay. Chains thick as tree trunks bound its legs, its wings, and its neck. And its eyes, gold and ancient and filled with unimaginable suffering, fixed directly on her. A sound escaped the beast, not a roar, a whimper. Vera's heart shattered. "You feel it, don't you?" The voice came from above. She looked up and saw him. Alpha King Valdrich stood on a stone balcony overlooking the cavern, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell past his jaw, and eyes the color of pale steel. Beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Cold, dangerous, and watching her with unsettling intensity. The others ran, he continued, his voice echoing off the chamber walls. The moment they saw Sindrath, they tried to flee. The dragon doesn't tolerate cowardice. Vera didn't respond. She couldn't. The dragon's pain was so loud inside her skull she could barely think. She walked forward. Behind her she heard gasps, soldiers muttering prayers. Someone shouted for her to stop. Sindrath's head rose, smoke curling from its nostrils. A warning. One more step, and she would burn like the others. Vera kept walking. The dragon's growl vibrated through her bones. Heat gathered in its throat, the telltale glow of fire building behind its teeth. She had seconds at most, but she didn't stop. Instead, she fell to her knees, placed both palms flat on the stone floor, and did something she had sworn never to do in front of witnesses. She opened herself completely to the pain. It slammed into her like a tidal wave. The rot, the infection, the cursed magic eating Sindrath alive from the inside out. She screamed as it tore through her body, as her veins turned to fire, as her vision went white with agony. And then she pushed. Healing energy flowed out of her in a golden wave, sinking into the stone, traveling toward the dragon like light chasing shadows. Sindrath roared, but not in anger. In shock. In relief. The gray patches on its scales began to shrink. Vera couldn't see it. She was too busy dying. The curse, whatever dark magic had poisoned the dragon, was now inside her. She could feel it spreading through her chest, wrapping around her heart, squeezing. This wasn't ordinary dark magic. It was designed to maintain a connection, a tether between the dragon and whoever had cast it. And now that tether had latched onto her as well. Enough! Strong hands grabbed her shoulders, yanking her back. The connection broke. Vera collapsed sideways, gasping, convulsing, her body trying to reject the darkness she'd absorbed. Through blurring vision, she saw Sindrath rise. The dragon's scales gleamed again, pure obsidian, healthy. Its eyes found hers and something passed between them. Recognition. Gratitude. A bond she didn't understand. Then she saw the king standing over her, his cold facade cracked, something almost like fear in his expression. "What are you?" he demanded. Vera couldn't answer, couldn't speak, could only shake as the stolen curse burned through her blood. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness claimed her was his voice, cutting through the chaos of shouting soldiers and roaring dragon. "She will be my bride." Vera woke to silk beneath her cheek, and pain still echoing in her bones. For a long moment she didn't move, couldn't move. Her body felt hollowed out, scraped raw from the inside. The curse she'd absorbed from Sindrath had faded to a dull ache, but it wasn't gone. She could feel it coiled somewhere deep in her chest, dormant but present. Waiting. She'd never taken something this dark into herself before. Didn't know what it would do to her. "You've been unconscious for 2 days." She opened her eyes. The room was unlike anything she'd ever seen. High ceilings painted with murals of dragons in flight. A canopied bed larger than her entire childhood home. Windows that overlooked snow-capped mountains beneath a gray sky. And sitting in a chair beside her bed, watching her with those unsettling ice-colored eyes, was the Alpha King. Vera tried to sit up. Her arms gave out immediately. "Don't," Valdrich said flatly. "You nearly killed yourself saving my dragon. Moving too quickly will only make it worse." "Your dragon," Vera managed, her voice cracked and weak, "is Sindrath. Healed. Completely." Something flickered across his face. "The court physicians can't explain how you survived. The curse should have killed you the moment you absorbed it. And yet here you are." Vera closed her eyes. Relief washed through her, warm and overwhelming. She'd done it. She'd actually saved the creature, which meant she was free. The soldier had promised, succeed and earn your freedom. She could go home, could disappear before anyone discovered the truth about her abilities. "There's been a change of plans," the king said, as if reading her thoughts. Her eyes snapped open. "You will not be leaving." Valdrich's voice was matter-of-fact, empty of cruelty but also empty of warmth. "I've announced our betrothal to the court. The wedding will take place in 1 week." The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. "What?" "You healed Sindrath," he continued. "No one else could. That makes you valuable, irreplaceable." "That makes me a healer," Vera said slowly, her pulse beginning to race. "Not a bride. In this kingdom, the dragon chooses the queen." Quiet hung between them, heavy and expectant. "I don't understand," Vera whispered. Valdrich stood, moving toward the window. With his back to her, he seemed less a king and more a shadow, outlined by pale light. "Sindrath is bonded to my bloodline," he said quietly. "Has been for generations. The dragon chooses who the king will marry. Always has. My father's bride, my grandfather's bride. Every queen in Valdara's history was chosen by the dragon first." He turned to face her. "When you healed Sindrath, when you took its pain into yourself, you formed a connection. The dragon has chosen you." Vera shook her head. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be queen. I just want to go home." "There is no home to return to," Valdrich said, his tone unchanged. "Your village was burned 3 months ago. Raiders. There were no survivors." The words hit her like a physical blow. She stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, to say it was a mistake. He didn't. "I had my men investigate," he continued. "You have no family, no ties, nothing waiting for you outside these walls." Vera felt tears building but refused to let them fall. Not in front of him. Not in front of this cold, calculating man who was rearranging her entire existence like pieces on a game board. "So I have no choice," she said quietly. "You have a choice." Valdrich walked back to her bedside, looking down at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Marry me and live as queen. Refuse and—" He paused. "I won't force you. But you should know that what you did in that cavern, the way you healed Sindrath, that's not ordinary healing magic. The court saw it. The soldiers saw it. By now, half the kingdom has heard whispers." Her blood ran cold. "People are asking questions," he finished. "Dangerous questions. About what kind of healer can absorb a curse meant to kill a dragon and survive." "You're threatening me." "I'm protecting you." His voice hardened. "Marry me, and no one will dare touch you. No one will investigate. No one will drag you before a tribunal and demand to know if your magic is the kind that got healers burned 100 years ago." Vera stared at him, her chest tight with fear and fury and something else she couldn't name. "What do you get out of this?" she asked. "Beyond the dragon's approval. Why would you want a wife you don't know? A prisoner dressed in silk?" His mask slipped for just a moment, a crack in his composure, something almost vulnerable, before it disappeared behind ice. "I need an heir," he said simply. "The bloodline must continue. Beyond that," he stepped back. "I want nothing from you. We will share a title, We will share a castle. We will share nothing else. You will have chambers, servants, freedom to do as you wish. I will not visit you. I will not burden you with expectations of affection." He moved toward the door. "1 week," he said without looking back. "Rest. Recover. And then we wed." The door closed behind him. Vera lay in the enormous bed, surrounded by luxury she'd never imagined, in a castle she couldn't leave, betrothed to a king who wanted nothing but her existence. And somewhere deep in her chest, coiled around her heart like a sleeping serpent, the curse she'd stolen from Sindrath stirred. The wedding was a spectacle. Vera stood at the entrance of the great cathedral, draped in white silk and silver thread. Her hair braided with pearls she'd never be able to afford in 10 lifetimes. The gown weighed more than she did. The crown they'd placed on her head felt like a shackle. And beyond the massive oak doors, 1,000 nobles waited to watch a prisoner become a queen. "You look terrified," said Metha, the elderly servant who'd been assigned to attend her. The woman's voice was kind, but matter-of-fact. "Try not to let them see it. Nobles smell fear like wolves smell blood." "I am terrified," Vera admitted quietly. "Good. Means you're not stupid." Metha adjusted the fall of her veil. "The stupid ones don't last long in this court." The doors groaned open. 1,000 faces turned toward her. Vera felt their gazes like needles, piercing, assessing, hungry for weakness. Whispers slithered through the cathedral, echoing off vaulted ceilings painted with images of dragons and kings. "That's her? The healer from the prisons? Look at her. Common as dirt. They say she used dark magic on Sindrath. Unnatural magic. The king has lost his mind." Vera kept her eyes forward. At the end of the impossibly long aisle, Valdrich stood waiting, dressed in black and silver, his expression carved from stone. Beside him, visible through the massive windows behind the altar, Sindrath perched on the cathedral's outer battlements. The dragon's eyes found hers. Warmth flooded her chest, unexpected and comforting. The creature's presence felt like a hand steadying her shoulder, guiding her forward. She walked, step by step, ignoring the whispers, ignoring the hostile stares from noblewomen in elaborate gowns who'd clearly expected to be standing where she stood. One woman in particular caught her attention, tall, raven-haired, beautiful in a sharp and dangerous way. She watched Vera with undisguised hatred. The ceremony passed in a blur. Vows spoken. Rings exchanged. Valdrich's hand was cold when he took hers, his grip firm but impersonal. His gaze swept over her without truly landing, as if she were a portrait on the wall, rather than a woman before him. "By the ancient laws of Valdrich," the priest intoned, "and by the blessing of Sindrath, guardian of the realm, I pronounce you husband and wife, alpha and queen, bonded until death." The crowd did not cheer. The pause lengthened, thick with resentment. Then Sindrath roared. The sound shook the cathedral, rattling the stained glass windows, sending nobles stumbling backward in fear. But it wasn't a roar of anger. It was proclamation, approval, the dragon's blessing, given for all to witness. Slowly, reluctantly, the nobles began to kneel. Valdrich finally looked at her. His guard dropped for just a moment, revealing something unreadable beneath. "They'll hate you for years," he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. "But they'll never dare harm you. Sindrath won't allow it." It wasn't comfort, but it was protection. And Vera realized with a strange twist in her chest that protection might be enough. The wedding night arrived with all the weight of an executioner's axe. Vera sat on the edge of an enormous bed in chambers she'd been told were now hers, connected to the king's rooms by a single door. A door that remained firmly closed. He'd said he wouldn't visit her, wouldn't burden her with expectations. But tradition demanded consummation. The court would expect proof. Servants would whisper if the king never entered his bride's chambers. An hour passed. Then 2. The door remained closed. Vera should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt strangely hollow, alone in a castle full of people who despised her. Married to a man who wanted nothing to do with her. Bound to a dragon whose curse still coiled inside her chest, stirring restlessly with each passing day. A knock at the door made her jump. Not the connecting door. The main entrance. "Enter," she called, her voice steadier than she felt. The door opened and Valdrich stepped inside. He'd changed from his wedding clothes into simpler attire. Dark trousers, a loose white shirt unlaced at the throat. His hair was damp, as if he'd recently bathed. He looked almost human like this. Almost approachable. Almost. "I won't touch you," he said immediately, closing the door behind him. "But I need to be seen entering your chambers. The servants talk. The court listens." Vera nodded slowly. "How long do you need to stay?" "An hour should suffice." He moved toward a chair near the fireplace, lowering himself into it with the careful movements of someone carrying invisible weight. "You can sleep if you wish. I'll leave before dawn." She should have taken the offer, should have climbed into bed and turned her back on this strange, cold king who'd upended her entire existence. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Why did you choose this? A marriage in name only. You could have any noblewoman in the kingdom." Valdrich was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. "Sindrath chose you," he said finally. "Not me. But you could have refused, ignored the dragon's choice. You're the king." "No." His voice was flat. "I couldn't." Something in his tone made her pause, a heaviness that went beyond politics or tradition. "The bond between dragon and king," he continued, still not looking at her. "It's not symbolic. It's not ceremonial. It's real. Sindrath's health is tied to mine. When the dragon sickened, He stopped. His jaw tightened. "You felt it too," Vera whispered, understanding dawning. "The pain. You felt what Sindrath felt." Valdrich's silence was answer enough. "That's why you were so desperate to find a healer," she continued. "It wasn't just about saving the dragon. You were dying too." His eyes finally met hers. In the firelight, they looked less like ice and more like steel. Hard, but not cold. Guarded, but not empty. "When you healed Sindrath," he said quietly, "I felt that too. The moment the curse lifted. The moment I could breathe again." He paused. "I owe you my life. This marriage, this crown, this protection. It's the only repayment I can offer." Vera stared at him, a warmth blooming in her chest. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't using her. He was a man bound to a creature's fate, trying to survive the only way he knew how. Just like her. "The curse," she said carefully. "The one that was killing Sindrath. Do you know where it came from?" Valdrich's expression shuddered. "No." He was lying. She could feel it the same way she felt pain, radiating off him like heat from a wound. But she didn't push. Not yet. "1 hour," she said softly, turning toward the bed. "I'll try to sleep." She didn't sleep, and when she heard him leave just before dawn, his footsteps careful and quiet, she pretended she hadn't noticed how long he'd lingered at her door before finally walking away. The weeks that followed settled into an unexpected rhythm. Valdrich kept his promise. He didn't visit her chambers again. They saw each other only at formal dinners, council meetings where she was required to sit silently at his side, and the occasional public appearance where they stood together like statues carved from the same cold stone. But something changed. It started small. A book left outside her door, a collection of healer's journals from the Royal Library with a note in his handwriting. "You seemed interested in the botanical gardens. These might help." then fresh herbs delivered to her chambers, rare specimens she'd mentioned wanting to study. A healer's kit crafted from silver and obsidian, finer than anything she'd ever owned, gifts without explanation, kindness without acknowledgement. And then Sindrath started visiting. The first time, Vera nearly fainted. She'd been walking through the gardens when a shadow blocked the sun, and suddenly the enormous dragon was landing on the lawn before her, folding its wings and lowering its great head to her level. "Hello," she'd managed weakly. Sindrath had huffed, a sound almost like laughter, and pressed its snout gently against her palm. After that, the dragon came daily, would find her wherever she was in the castle and simply stay, coiled nearby while she read, walking beside her through corridors, sending servants scattering in terror, curling around her protectively when she sat in the gardens. "The dragon has never bonded with anyone outside the bloodline," Matha told her one evening, eyes wide. "In 300 years. Never." Vera didn't know what to do with that information, but she couldn't deny the comfort Sindrath's presence brought. The creature understood her in ways no human ever had, felt her pain without explanation, offered warmth without condition. It was more than she'd ever received from anyone. And then one night, everything shifted. She couldn't sleep. The curse inside her chest had grown more active lately, stirring with increasing frequency, sending jolts of pain through her body at random moments. She'd hidden it from everyone, but it was getting harder. Desperate for distraction, she wandered the castle and found herself outside the dragon's cavern. Sindrath was already awake, golden eyes gleaming in the darkness. Vera descended the stairs and settled onto the stone floor beside the dragon's massive head. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly. "The thing I took from you. It's still inside me, and I don't know how to get rid of it." Sindrath made a low, rumbling sound. "Sympathy. Understanding. I've never told anyone what I really am," Vera continued. "A pain-bearer. That's what they called us before the burnings. Healers who take suffering into themselves. My mother was one. Her mother before her. We pass it down like a curse of our own." She pressed her forehead against the dragon's warm scales. "She died when I was 12. Took too much into herself and couldn't release it. Her heart just stopped." Tears burned her eyes. "I always knew I'd die the same way. I just didn't think it would be so soon." "You're not going to die." Vera spun around. Valdrich stood at the base of the stairs, his expression unreadable in the dim light. How long had he been there? How much had he heard? "I didn't," she started. "I know what you are," he interrupted, walking toward her. "I recognized what you did the moment you healed Sindrath. I've seen the old texts, the descriptions of pain-bearers, the way they absorb suffering through touch." He stopped a few feet away. "What I couldn't understand was how you survived taking a curse that should have killed you instantly. Now I know. You're stronger than any pain-bearer in recorded history." Vera's chest tightened. "Then why haven't you exposed me, thrown me to the tribunal?" "Because you saved my life." His voice was fierce, almost angry. "Because you're the only person who's ever looked at Sindrath without fear. Because—" He stopped, turned away. His shoulders rose and fell with a heavy breath. "Because I won't let you die," he finished quietly. "Not for me, not for the dragon. I'll find a way to remove the curse from your body, Vera, I swear it." She stared at his back, her chest tight with something she was afraid to name. "Why do you care?" she whispered. He didn't answer, just stood there, clearly wanting to say something more, but not knowing how. Then Sindrath shifted, its tail curling around them both, pulling them closer together. The dragon huffed, that laughing sound again, and settled its head back down as if to say, "Figure it out yourselves." And in the warm darkness of the cavern, surrounded by dragon fire and unspoken truths, Vera realized she was no longer alone. For the first time in her life, someone was fighting for her. The months that followed were the happiest Vera had ever known. She didn't notice it happening at first. The way Valdrich began appearing at her door with excuses, thin and transparent. The council wishes your opinion on the Healers Guild expansion. Sindrath is restless. Perhaps you could calm the beast. The gardens are blooming, and I thought you might enjoy seeing them. Now the walks were daily. They spoke of everything and nothing. The politics of the realm, which she found surprisingly fascinating. The history of dragon-bonded kings, which he recited with the weariness of a man who'd memorized too many dead ancestors. The herbs she was cultivating in her private garden, which he listened to with genuine interest despite clearly understanding none of it. And sometimes they didn't speak at all, just walked in comfortable silence, Sindrath trailing behind them like an enormous fire-breathing chaperone. "The court is talking," Matha informed her one morning, helping her dress for yet another council meeting. "They say the king has changed, that he smiles now, that he laughs." Vera felt heat rise to her cheeks. "He's simply relaxed. The dragon's health has improved." Matha's knowing look suggested she wasn't fooled. "And the fact that he dismissed Lady Satara from court last week? That had nothing to do with you?" Vera paused. "Who?" "Lady Satara Vorn, the raven-haired beauty who's been glaring daggers at you since the wedding." Matha lowered her voice. "She was meant to be queen, you know, before Sindrath rejected her. Rumor has it she and the king were close." Something cold slithered through Vera's chest. He never mentioned her. Men rarely mention the mistakes they'd prefer to forget. Matha patted her shoulder. "Don't fret, child. Whatever she was to him, you're what he wants now. Anyone with eyes can see it." But Vera couldn't shake the unease. That night, when Valdrich came to walk with her through the moonlit gardens, she found herself watching him differently, searching for shadows she might have missed. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. "I'm thinking." Dangerous habit for a queen. His voice was light, teasing. He'd become gentler lately, warmer. The ice in his gaze had begun to thaw. Vera stopped walking. "Who is Satara Vorn?" Valdrich went very still. Neither spoke for a long moment, the quiet broken only by Sindrath's distant rumbling and the whisper of wind through the rose bushes. "Someone from my past," he said finally. "Someone who no longer matters." "She was supposed to marry you." "Yes." "What happened?" He turned to face her, his expression guarded in a way she hadn't seen in weeks. "Sindrath rejected her. Violently. The dragon nearly burned her alive during the bonding ceremony. I'd never seen the creature react that way to anyone." "Why?" "I don't know." His jaw tightened. "I've asked myself that question for 3 years. Satara was everything a queen should be. Highborn. Beautiful. Politically advantageous. The match made perfect sense. But Sindrath knew something was wrong with her? Perhaps." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the conflict in his eyes. "Or perhaps the dragon was simply waiting for you." Vera's breath caught. "I don't know why Sindrath chose you," Valdrich continued quietly, "but I've stopped questioning it, because every day I spent with you, every conversation, every silence, every moment you look at my dragon with love instead of fear." He paused, his voice dropping. "I understand the choice better." Her pulse was racing now, so fast she felt dizzy. "Valdrich, I won't ask anything of you," he said quickly. "That was our arrangement. He exhaled. "I needed you to know that this isn't obligation anymore. This isn't repayment." He turned away before she could respond, walking back toward the castle with rigid shoulders. And Vera stood alone in the moonlight, her hand pressed to her chest where the dormant curse suddenly stirred, as if awakened by the pounding of her heart. 3 nights later, Vera woke to screaming. Not human screaming, dragon screaming. She threw off the covers and ran, barefoot and nightgown clad, through the castle corridors. Servants pressed themselves against walls as she passed. Guards shouted questions she didn't answer. Sindrath. Something was wrong with Sindrath. She burst into the cavern to find chaos. The dragon was thrashing against its chains, smoke and flames erupting from its jaws in uncontrolled bursts. Its scales had begun to gray again, that horrible mottled decay spreading across its hide like a plague. The curse. Someone had reactivated the curse, using the tether that still connected the dragon to whoever had cast it. And lying on the stone floor, convulsing, blood streaming from his nose and ears, was Valdrich. No! Vera dropped to her knees beside him. No, no, no. His eyes were rolled back, his body seizing. The bond. The damned bond between dragon and king. Whatever was killing Sindrath was killing him too. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. She pressed her palms to his chest and opened herself completely, reaching for the curse that connected them all. Pain slammed into her with the force of a collapsing mountain. This wasn't like before. This was worse. Deeper. The curse had evolved, grown stronger, and as it poured into her body, she understood why. Someone had fed it. The magic tasted of hatred, of betrayal, of cold, calculated malice that had been nurturing this darkness for months, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Vera screamed as the curse ripped through her, as her vision fractured into black and gold, as her heart stuttered in her chest. But she didn't let go. Couldn't let go. Vera! Valdrich's voice, hoarse and desperate. He was conscious now, grabbing her wrists, trying to pull her away. Stop. You'll kill yourself. If I stop, you die, she gasped. I don't care. I do. The words exploded out of her, raw and true. I love you, you impossible man. I'm not losing you. She pushed harder, pulled the curse deeper into herself, felt it wrap around her heart like thorns, squeezing, piercing, bleeding her from the inside out. Sindrath's thrashing slowed. Valdrich's convulsions stopped, and Vera collapsed. The last thing she heard was Valdrich screaming her name. The last thing she felt was his arms catching her before she hit the stone. Then darkness swallowed everything. When she woke, she was dying. She knew it the way she knew her own name. The curse had rooted too deeply this time. It had found her heart, and made a home there. And no amount of healing could undo what she'd done to herself. Don't move. Valdrich was beside her bed, his face haggard and his eyes red-rimmed. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Maybe he hadn't. How long? She whispered. 4 days. His voice cracked. The healers say you won't survive another 4. Vera closed her eyes. So this was it. This was how her story ended. It was worth it, she said softly. Don't. His hand found hers, gripping tight. Don't you dare say that. You're alive. Sindrath is alive. The kingdom. I don't care about the kingdom. He was on his feet now, pacing like a caged animal. I care about you. I need you. And you're lying there telling me it was worth dying? Valdrich, I love you. The words exploded out of him, broken and furious. I've loved you since you walked toward my dying dragon without fear. Since you took its pain into yourself without asking for anything in return. Since you looked at me, not at the crown, not at the power, and saw someone worth knowing. Tears slid down Vera's cheeks. I was supposed to be cold, he continued, his voice shattering. I was supposed to keep you at a distance. I thought if I didn't let myself care, I couldn't be hurt again. But you... He fell to his knees beside her bed. You ruined everything. You made me feel again. And now you're dying. And I can't. There might be a way. The new voice came from the doorway. Vera turned her head to see an old woman standing there, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, dressed in the robes of a palace healer. Forgive the intrusion, the woman said, stepping inside, but I've been listening, and I believe I know how to save your queen. The old healer's name was Thessaly. I served in this castle 40 years ago, she explained, settling into a chair beside Vera's bed. Valdrich stood rigid nearby, his hand still clutching Vera's. Back when your grandfather was king, your majesty. Back when pain-bearers weren't yet forgotten. Vera's chest seized. You know what I am. Child, I trained your grandmother. The world tilted. Vera stared at the old woman, words failing her entirely. Orena was her name. Thessaly continued gently, the most gifted pain-bearer I ever knew. She could draw sickness from a dying man and release it into the earth, transformed into something harmless. She taught the technique to her daughter, your mother, before the burnings began. My mother never told me about any technique, Vera managed. She just absorbed and suffered. Because she never finished her training. Thessaly's expression darkened. The purges came too quickly. Orena was burned when your mother was just a girl. The knowledge was lost. But you remember it. I remember everything. The old woman leaned forward. The curse inside you, it's not meant to stay in your body. It's meant to pass through. You take the pain? Yes. But then, you must release it, ground it, transform it into something else. How? Thessaly hesitated. That's the difficult part. The technique requires an anchor. Someone connected to you deeply enough that they can hold you steady while you release the darkness. Someone whose bond is strong enough to pull you back if you go too far. Valdrich stepped forward immediately. I'll do it. Your Majesty, the risk. I don't care about risk. His voice was steel. Tell me what to do. Thessaly studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The bond between you already exists. The dragon connected you the moment it chose her. All you need to do is strengthen it. How? Complete the mate bond. Thessaly's eyes moved between them. Claim her, fully, body and soul. Let Sindrath witness it. The dragon's fire will burn away the curse as it passes through her, but only if the bond is absolute. Vera felt heat flood her cheeks. We've never. I know. Thessaly rose. You have until midnight. After that, the curse will reach her heart completely, and no bond will be strong enough to save her. She left them alone. The silence that followed was deafening. Vera, Valdrich started. I need to tell you something first. She struggled to sit up, ignoring the pain that lanced through her chest. Before you decide anything, before you bind yourself to me permanently, there's nothing you could tell me that would change my mind. I might have killed someone. He stopped. Vera forced herself to meet his eyes. Before the prisons, before any of this, there was a man in my village, Corvin. He was cruel. Beat his wife. Hurt his children. Everyone knew, but no one could prove it. She swallowed hard. One night, his wife came to me, bleeding, broken, begging me to save her. I healed her, took her pain into myself, and I felt everything he'd done to her. Every blow. Every cruelty. Tears fell freely now. I found him afterward, drunk in the tavern. And I touched him. I didn't mean to. I was so angry, and my gift just reversed. Instead of taking his pain, I gave it. Every ounce of suffering I'd absorbed from his wife, I pushed into him. Valdrich was absolutely still. He collapsed. Vera whispered. Heart stopped. They said it was natural causes, but I knew. I killed him, Valdrich. Maybe he deserved it. Maybe he didn't. But I killed him, and I've never told anyone until now. She waited for the disgust, the rejection, the cold return of the man who'd married her out of obligation. Instead, Valdrich cupped her face in both hands and pressed his forehead to hers. You protected someone who couldn't protect herself, he said quietly. You used a gift you barely understood to stop a monster. That's not murder, Vera. That's justice. The kingdom would call it dark magic. They'd burn me if they knew. Then the kingdom will never know. His thumbs brushed away her tears. Your secrets are mine now. Every shadow you carry, I carry with you. He pulled back, his eyes blazing with something that made her breath catch. I love you, he said. The healer who takes pain, the woman who walks toward dragons, the queen who doesn't know she's already saved me 100 times over. I love all of you. Even the monster? Especially the monster. His voice dropped. Because I have monsters of my own. What happened next changed everything. Valdrich carried her to the dragon's cavern, ignoring her protests that she could walk. Sindrath waited there, golden eyes gleaming, the great beast curled around a nest of furs and silks that hadn't been there before. The servants prepared it, Valdrich explained, setting her down gently. Thessaly's instructions. The cavern was warm, heated by the dragon's internal fire. Vera should have felt afraid, should have felt nervous. Instead, she felt only certainty. This was right. This was meant to be. Last chance to change your mind, she whispered. Valdrich's answer was to pull her into a kiss that stole every thought from her head. In the glow of dragon fire, surrounded by the ancient magic, they completed what had been building between them for months. Valdrich was tender when she needed tenderness, fierce when she needed fire. His hands learned every curve of her body, every sensitive place, every breath and gasp and cry. And when he finally marked her, teeth sinking into the junction of her neck and shoulder, she felt the bond snap into place like a key turning in a lock. Sindrath roared. Fire erupted around them, but it didn't burn. It flowed through Vera like water, seeking the curse coiled around her heart. She felt it latch on, felt the darkness begin to unravel, felt herself being pulled in 2 directions at once. Hold on, Valdrich gasped against her skin. Hold on to me. She did. Gripped his shoulders hard enough to bruise. Let his presence anchor her while the dragon's fire burned the poison from her blood. The curse screamed as it died. A sound that wasn't a sound, a voice that wasn't a voice, full of hatred and recognition. And in that scream, Vera heard a name. Satara. The curse shattered. The fire retreated. And Vera lay in Valdrich's arms, gasping, cleansed, and alive. It was her, she breathed. Satara. She created the curse. She's been feeding it this whole time. Valdrich's expression turned murderous. Where is she? He demanded, rising to his feet. I dismissed her from court. She should have left the kingdom. Your Majesty. A guard appeared at the cavern entrance, face pale. Forgive the interruption, but there's been an incident. Lady Satara Vorn has taken the council hostage. She used dark magic to breach the wards. She's demanding to speak with you. The throne room was chaos. Satara stood at its center, surrounded by a circle of black flames that crackled with the same dark magic that had nearly killed them both. 12 council members knelt within the circle, their faces slack with enchantment. And in Sathara's hand was a knife pressed to Maitha's throat. Ah, the happy couple. Sathara's smile was razor sharp. I was beginning to think you'd let your council die while you rutted in the dragon's den. Valdrich stepped forward, but Vera caught his arm. That's cursed fire, she said quietly. If you cross the boundary, it will kill you. The dragon bond will amplify it. You'll both die. Then what do we do? Vera studied the flames, feeling their heat, their malice, their hunger. The same magic she'd pulled from Sindrath, the same darkness she'd nearly died absorbing. She understood it now, understood how it worked. Keep her talking, she murmured. I need time. She stepped forward before Valdrich could stop her. Sathara, she called out. This is between us. Let the others go. The dark-haired woman laughed. Between us? Little healer, you don't even know what this is about. Then tell me, Satara's eyes blazed. I was supposed to be queen. I spent years preparing, training, perfecting myself for that crown. And then some filthy dragon rejected me, and Valdrich just accepted it. Her voice broke with fury. He could have fought for me, could have demanded Sindrath reconsider. Instead, he dismissed me like I was nothing, sent me away from the only home I'd ever known. So you cursed his dragon, Vera said, knowing it would kill him too. If I couldn't have him, no one would. Sathara's grip tightened on the knife. Matha whimpered. But then you came along. You healed the dragon. You took my curse into yourself and survived. And worst of all, he loves you. She spat the word like poison. He never loved me, never looked at me the way he looks at you. So now I'm going to take everything from both of you, starting with this old woman, then the council, then the dragon, then... You talk too much. Vera moved. She'd been gathering power while Satara ranted, pulling energy from the stone beneath her feet, from the air around her, from the mate bond still singing in her blood. Now she released it in a single concentrated burst, not at Satara, but at the circle of black flames. The fire screamed, the same sound she'd heard when the curse died inside her. It recognized her, feared her, tried to resist. She pushed harder. "What are you doing?" Satara shrieked. "Taking your pain," Vera said through gritted teeth. "Transforming it, just like my grandmother taught me." The flames began to change color. Black fading to gray, gray fading to white, white dissolving into pure golden light. "No." Satara raised the knife. Sindrath crashed through the throne room ceiling. Stone and glass exploded everywhere. The dragon landed directly on Satara, one massive claw pinning her to the ground, the knife clattering harmlessly away. The remaining flames died instantly. Vera collapsed to her knees, spent but victorious. Valdrich was beside her immediately, pulling her into his arms. "You impossible woman," he breathed against her hair. "You beautiful, terrifying, impossible woman." She laughed weakly. "Couldn't let her hurt Matha." "You could have died." "But I didn't." She pulled back to look at him. "I'm not going to die, Valdrich. Not now. Not for a very long time." His kiss was desperate and grateful and full of promises. Behind them, Satara screamed curses until the guards dragged her away. 6 months later, the kingdom of Valdrich had transformed. The Academy of Healers opened its doors on the summer solstice, the first institution of its kind in a century. Pain bearers were no longer hunted. They were honored, sought out, protected by royal decree. Vera stood at the Academy's entrance, watching the first class of students file inside. Some were young, barely more than children. Others were old, healers who'd hidden their gifts for decades, finally free to learn without fear. "You're crying," Valdrich observed, sliding an arm around her waist. "Happy tears." She leaned into him. "My grandmother would have loved this." "Your grandmother would have loved you." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Speaking of family." Vera turned to see Thessaly approaching, a bundle of cloth in her arms, a bundle that squirmed and made small, demanding sounds. "Someone wants her mother," the old healer said, passing the baby over. Vera cradled her daughter close, marveling as she did every day at the tiny, perfect fingers, the tuft of dark hair, the eyes that already showed flecks of gold amid the gray, a gift from the dragon who had claimed her before she was even born. "Sindrath's influence," Valdrich murmured, touching the baby's cheek. "The healers say they've never seen anything like it. The dragon claimed her before she was even born." Vera smiled. "Wouldn't leave my side the entire pregnancy." As if summoned by its name, Sindrath landed in the academy courtyard, sending students scattering with delighted shrieks. The dragon approached the family with surprising gentleness, lowering its great head to sniff the baby. The child giggled and grabbed a scale. "Future Dragon Queen," Thessaly declared, "I've never seen a bond form so young." Valdrich pulled Vera closer, their daughter nestled safely between them. "Will you tell her?" he asked quietly. "About what we went through? About Satara and the curse?" Vera considered the question. Satara was imprisoned now, stripped of her magic, locked in a tower where she could hurt no one. The council had been purged of her allies. The kingdom was healing. "Someday," she said finally, "when she's old enough to understand, I'll tell her that her father was a cold king who learned to feel, that her mother was a secret monster who learned to forgive herself, that a dragon brought them together, and love kept them there." And the moral of the story? Vera looked up at her husband, at this man who'd chosen her when she had nothing, who'd loved her when she'd been dying, who'd stood beside her as she burned down every barrier between them. "That fear is a cage," she said softly. "But love is a dragon. It destroys what tries to trap you. It protects what matters. And once it chooses you," she rose on her toes and kissed him, "it never lets go." Above them, Sindrath spread its wings and roared into the sky, a sound of triumph, of joy, of a kingdom reborn. And in the warm summer light, surrounded by healers and dragons and the family she'd never dared dream of, Vera finally understood what it meant to be home.